For the past 6 months, I've been creating deep dives on how bootstrap businesses go from 0 to 250K in annual revenue. And I've started to notice some patterns, but they were just gut feelings. They haven't had any data to actually back them up. So over the last few months, what I've been doing is actually researching any bootstrap founder that I could possibly research. And all this research has led to me creating the bootstrapped report. And the bootstrapped report is a study of 64 different bootstrap founders of who they are, what they built, and exactly how they built it. And you can download the report in the description below of this video. Now, there are a few key takeaways from the bootstrap report, so let's jump into a few of them. And the first one is this one, is the years of experience before they started their business. And this number is a little over 8 years, which actually matches pretty closely to a study that Harvard Business School did, where they actually studied all sorts of founders, ones that were even venture-backed, and they learned that their average age of a successful founder, in terms of what they defined as success, was 45 years old. And about 8 years or so, right, that's about like 32-ish, depending on when they graduated college and all sorts of different experiences. But that's in alignment with, I think, what that study is. And one kind of thing that makes it more sense of why maybe a bootstrap founder would be younger is that, right, if you're building any type of business, and the Harvard Business School, they studied even like biotech and really high-tech businesses. For those businesses, right, you might not even be graduating college until like you're 32 yourself, right? If you go to med school, those kind of things, right? So you're not even gonna be able to build a business, where if it's really high tech, because there's like lots of research that needs to be done. You need to have the background to do those things. Whereas bootstrap businesses, right, you're not gonna, like bootstrap a biotech company. It like just doesn't make any sense. So this makes sense of why a bootstrap founder would be, probably skew a little bit younger than that 45 years old, just because the amount of resources you need and the amount of experience that you need to build a business, like a bootstrap business, isn't going to be as high, especially, right, because we're kind of taking out that older demographic in terms of types of founders. So that one makes sense to me. The other interesting tidbit about who these founders were is where they were located. So when I studied where they were located, they were all over the world, and they were literally all over the United States as well. I thought they may be like concentrated on the coast and those kind of things, but they weren't. There's definitely, right, there's more in New York, there's, those kind of things, but they were literally, it didn't really matter where you were located. And at the end of the day, I think this makes sense too, right? Because 99% of businesses are bootstrapped. And if you look around just your communities, there's a lot of different businesses. But also, right, getting to 250K in annual revenue, that's a really tough hill to climb, but it was still really cool to see, right? You can build these 250K bootstrap businesses literally anywhere in the world. And yes, it could be more helpful to be in a densely populated area, but at the same time, especially as the world's gone more global and especially more online, it hasn't mattered as much. So that's who these founders are, but let's talk a little bit more about their businesses. And the first number I want to point out is how long it took these businesses to go from 0 to 250K in annual revenue. And the number that I found was that it took a little over 2.5 years for a bootstrap business to go from 0 to 250K in annual revenue. And there's a big range on this, and it took anywhere from like a month, which is like one of them, all the way to about 6 years, which was a few of them. So there's a really wide range in terms of the time it took for a business to go from 0 to 250K in annual revenue. But one of the kind of the interesting pieces that I found in this piece of it was actually comparing it to all the different growth strategies they were using. And what I found was that there's actually about 10 different growth strategies in terms of categories. And yes, there's like a million different tactics, but really grouping them into 10 different growth strategies. And you can see them here on the screen. The interesting takeaway that I had though from these growth strategies is how they impacted how long it took you to get to 250K in annual revenue. But before I do that, let me actually show you how many times these growth strategies were used by these 56 different businesses. And you can see here, right, they don't add up to 56, but because, right, these businesses are using more than one growth strategy, that's why they don't add up to 56. But, right, you can see social media and relationships, these were the top two by far in terms of how they built them, how they built their businesses. And you can see the bottom two are ads and product led. Now, there's kind of a few key interesting kind of tidbits that I took out of this. One, right, is social media. I thought this would actually speed up how long it took you to get from 0 to 250K in annual revenue. But it was actually just about average or even later than average. For those businesses that use social media, it actually took them 2.7 years to get to 250K in annual revenue, which is like right on average. And relationships were pretty much the same number as well. Now, the interesting piece that it makes sense now looking back, in hindsight, it's 2020, but communities and media actually really sped you up. So if you use communities or media, instead of being at 2.5 years to get to 250K in annual revenue, these companies were actually able to get there in 1.8 years. And I think the reasoning behind this is that they're actually leveraging other people's audiences. So they're not trying to maybe build their own audience. They might be trying to do that a little bit, but by leveraging other audiences that you don't own, they were able to build faster. Now, the last thing I want to point out here is ads and product led. And I found this kind of interesting, right? Because I thought that ads would be much more used, especially because, right, we talked about experience of these founders. A lot of them have experience and they were using, marketing budgets and they were used to doing ads maybe in their previous roles, but they still didn't really use ads to build their business. And instead, they were actually still using relationships, communities, all these different things. And what I learned actually, and I don't have any data to support this because I was just focused on how they went from 0 to 250K in annual revenue, but ads and product led feel much more like a thing post 250K in annual revenue, right? Because you have users, you have customers. These seem like, right, once you've kind of built out, that these kind of jump up in terms of priorities and how you're growing past 250K in annual revenue. But maybe that's a report later on. So those are the few key takeaways from the Bootstrap report. But if you want to get your own copy of the Bootstrap report, you can download it in the description below.